My mother took all my salary and gave me an allowance as if she was doing me a favor. For years I accepted it because I thought it was normal. But one day I realized it wasn't love. It was control. My name is Lorena, and today I'm going to tell you how I got out of this silent prison. So grab your coffee, and let's go together. I'll never forget the first time I held my full paycheck in my hands, or the last time I saw it. I had worked myself to the bone that month. Double shifts, weekend hours, back pain, red eyes. When the money hit my account, I could barely breathe from excitement. But the second I walked through the door, my mother reached out her hand. Give me the card. Like it belonged to her. Like it was just the way things were. And like always, I obeyed. They say control starts with small things. For me, it started with, I'm saving it for you. I was 18 when I landed my first job, and from day one, I handed over everything. She said it was for the best, that it would help me avoid wasting money. And I believed her, because she was my mother, because I was raised to trust. But too much trust can be the quickest way into a cage. The cruelest part wasn't that she took my money. It was the allowance performance. Every Sunday morning, she'd put 100 reis in a little box and say, "Here's your little money." Little money. Like I was a kid getting coins for good behavior. Meanwhile, she was getting her hair done weekly, updating her wardrobe, swapping out phones, all with the money I bled to earn. And me, I pretended not to notice, because pretending hurt less. At work I smiled. I was the model employee, but inside, I was a pressure cooker. When coworkers talked about saving up, traveling, or taking classes, I just nodded. I didn't have the courage to say that even though I worked full-time, I had to ask permission to buy tampons. It was like living in a gilded cage, freedom on the outside, invisible bars on the inside. And the worst part, I was too ashamed to tell anyone. One day, a colleague asked, "Still live with your parents?" I said yes, and he joked, "Nice, must be saving a ton every month." I smiled, cold and fake. I wanted to say, no, I don't even see my own money. But I swallowed it, because even I couldn't explain it properly. The truth was too tangled to say out loud. And honestly, admitting it made me feel small. That's when I started noticing my mom's favorite lines. "You don't know how to manage money. It's just temporary. You owe me everything." Each one was another nail in the coffin of my autonomy. And it hit me. This wasn't protection. It was control. Dependence dressed up as care. And with every word, a little more of me shrank. Until there was almost nothing left. That night, I went to bed with an empty stomach and a head full of noise. I made enough money to live well. But I was counting coins. I tried asking for a little more allowance. She laughed, said I didn't know the value of money. And I wanted to scream, "I know more than you think." But I didn't scream. Not yet. Because to scream, I'd have to see myself as an adult. And up until that point, I still felt like a child in her hands. One night, I woke up with a strange thought. If I disappeared, would she even notice? Would it matter? I walked to the mirror, looked into my own eyes, and barely recognized the woman staring back. I wasn't a little girl anymore. I was grown. I worked. I earned. I was capable. But I was scared. Scared to break away. Scared to lose the love that came with strings attached. And in that moment, I realized I was tired of living half a life. The next week, my paycheck came in. Same routine. Same demanding look from her. But that day, when I handed over the card, something sparked inside me. Small, shaky, but alive. It burned quietly through the rest of the day. I didn't have a plan yet, but for the first time I wanted one. Because something inside me had finally woken up. And I didn't plan on falling back asleep. That Monday at work, my mind wouldn't shut off. I was typing, answering emails, helping clients, but inside I was drawing a map. A plan. A way to start saving something just for me, even if it was small. Then I remembered something a coworker once said in passing. I send myself a pix every time I have 20 reis left. That lit a spark. An invisible piggy bank. A digital escape. At the end of my shift, I told them I needed to go to the bank to fix an app issue. That was a lie, but it worked. I opened a second digital account under a different email and phone number. Nothing that my mom could trace. When I finished setting it up, my hands were shaking. It felt like a crime. But deep down, it was just freedom, finally taking its first breath. I smiled for the first time in days. Quietly, like someone guarding a sacred secret. That night, she was waiting, arms crossed, queen of the castle. I handed her the card. "Everything okay?" she asked. I said yes, but inside, a voice whispered, "Not yet, but it will be." I went to my room and hid the new phone, the one linked to my secret account, inside a boot I never wore. It felt paranoid, maybe, but having something that was truly mine felt new and addictive. Over the next few days, I started saving small amounts. 15 here, 30 there. Sometimes I told her I bought something at work and needed a reimbursement. But really, I was just feeding my invisible savings. It wasn't much, but every real, every coin, it chipped away at the chains. I counted pennies like someone counting courage, and with every cent, I felt more alive. I started secretly learning about finance. YouTube videos, blogs, free online courses. I found a whole world out there, women talking about freedom, autonomy, how to break out of control. "Money is the first kind of freedom they try to take from us," one of them said. That line hit me deep, like someone had finally named the thing I had felt for years but couldn't describe. One night, while washing dishes, I overheard my mom on the phone with a friend. "Lorena's such a good girl," she laughed. "Doesn't complain, gives me everything." Like it was cleverness on her part, like it was my stupidity. My fingers clenched around the fork. I wanted to throw it, but I didn't. I breathed. I wouldn't react with anger. I'd respond with strategy. Her payback would come, but it would be planned. I started saying no to little things. "Want to go to the mall Sunday?" she'd ask. "Can't. Headache," I'd say. Truth was, I just wanted to save even the bus fare. I began building quiet boundaries, and the more she noticed I wasn't always available, the more suspicious she became. "Are you hiding something from me?" she asked one day. I smiled. "No, Mom. I'm just tired." Tired was an understatement. Little by little, my strength came back. I woke up with more energy. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman taking shape. Still scared, yes. Still with nowhere to run. But with something she couldn't touch. Purpose. And even if it was just a flicker, it was mine. And I knew. I just had to protect that flame until it turned into fire. At the end of that month, I checked my secret account. $348.20. It wasn't a lot, but I'd never had that much just for me. I stared at that number for a long time. It was the first solid piece of my freedom. And right then, I wrote a sentence in my mind that would guide me from that day forward. She raised me to be dependent, but now, I'm raising myself to be free. The breaking point didn't come with a scream. It came with a seemingly simple question. "Why is it that you're always broke, Lorena?" My mom asked, not out of concern, but with a sharp tone, like I'd done something wrong. I froze, looked at her, at the hand holding my debit card, at the brand new purse on the couch. I wanted to say, "Because you take everything." But I stayed silent, because in that moment, I realized this wasn't ignorance. It was abuse, and she knew it. At work, I got an offer, extra hours on Saturdays with a bonus. I told her at dinner. Her response, "Great, more money for us to manage." For us. But there was no us. There was her, and there was me. She spent. I earned. She decided. I obeyed. And suddenly, the word manage felt like a blade. I said yes to the extra hours, but not for her. For me. That's when the plan started to take shape. I used the extra shifts as an excuse to stay out longer. I made up meetings, study groups, job courses, anything to keep me out of the house and give me time to think. I started gathering things I didn't use. Old clothes, books, electronics. I made an anonymous seller account online and began making quiet money. Every sale was a small rebellion. and every bit of cash felt like taking back a piece of myself. One afternoon, I bought a new notebook. On the cover, I wrote, "Escape plan." Not in pencil, in pen. It wasn't something to erase. Inside, I listed goals: emergency fund target, how much rent would cost for a small room, how much I needed to save in 3 months. Every page I filled was a piece of a scream I hadn't let out. Because on that paper, my freedom was being drafted with calm and precision. My mom started to sense the distance. "You're acting weird. Are you hiding something? Tell me the truth." And I smiled, said I was just tired, or hot, or stressed from work. But really, it was just one thing: growth. I was growing without her, and she could feel it, because for the first time, she didn't know everything, and her grip on me was slipping through the cracks of my independence. One night, I noticed she'd gone through my things. My drawer was off, clothes slightly moved, an envelope with scribbled notes out of place. I felt the blood drain from my face, but I didn't say a word. I just took the notebook and hid it somewhere else. That's when it hit me. Living with her had turned into a minefield, and I needed to run, but not in panic, in stealth, with purpose. The next day, I checked my secret account, $872.60. More than I expected. I sat on a bench near work and cried. Not from sadness, from exhaustion. That amount represented something no one had ever given me: autonomy. It was mine. My work. My effort. No conditions. No control. Sure, it wasn't much, but it was a part of me that was free. I started visiting tiny studio apartments on the sly, scheduled the visits like they were work meetings. I saw places that were barely bigger than closets, but they had windows. And windows, for me, meant air. One day, I found one with blue tiles and the smell of fresh paint. I fell in love. The owner agreed to split the deposit into 2 parts. And right then I knew the plan was becoming real. I was almost there. So close. That day, I came home with my heart racing. My mom was on the couch, laughing at some soap opera, like the world revolved around her. And for a second, I didn't see the woman I used to see. I saw someone small, someone who built a kingdom of control on top of my fear. But that kingdom was going to fall, because I wasn't the same anymore. And very soon she'd realize it. On the 1st of the month, my paycheck came in. And for the first time in 2 years, it didn't go to my mom's account. I transferred every cent straight to my secret one. My heart was pounding so hard, I was sure the world could hear it. But no one did. Not even her. I just felt my phone buzz with a message from her. "Hey, sweetie, let me know when the money comes in." I didn't answer. And that silence was my first real answer. The next morning, she woke up smiling, like she always did on payday. Made coffee, laid out some bread, and said, "We'll go grocery shopping today." But I stayed quiet, put on my work uniform, grabbed my bag, and said, "I've got extra training. Going straight after work." She looked at me funny. "But the money?" "It's with me," I said. And I left. No explanation. No permission. During lunch at work, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Calls. Messages. "Are you crazy? Where's the money? This is theft." But I didn't feel guilty. For the first time, I felt relief. Like I was finally breathing after years underwater. And I realized she was yelling not out of concern, but because she was losing the one thing that gave her control: my fear. That night, when I came home, the silence wasn't peaceful. It was thick, tight, like something was about to explode. She was waiting in the living room, arms crossed. "So this is how it is now." "This is fair," I replied. She stood up, yelled, called me ungrateful. "Everything I did was for you." "No. Everything you did was to control me." And right then, it wasn't a fight between mother and daughter anymore. It was a fight between oppression and freedom. She tried to grab my phone, said she'd take everything away from me, said I was a disappointment. And for the first time, I shouted back, not with anger, but with truth. "You don't want a daughter. You want an obedient employee who never questions you. Well, I'm done." After that, I locked myself in my room, laid down in the dark, My heart was racing, but I felt light, strangely light. In the days that followed, she pretended things were normal. Talked about random stuff, asked about my day, but her eyes had changed. They were the eyes of someone who lost control and didn't know how to recover. I, on the other hand, moved like usual. I came and went, ate my meals, but her power, it didn't touch me anymore. And she could feel it, bit by bit. I started preparing to leave, finalized the lease for the little blue studio, set my move-out date for the end of the month. Every night, in silence, I packed my things. Books, journals, clothes, old photos. It was like dismantling a prison with my bare hands. And with every box, memories came up. Some sweet, most painful. But now, they were just that, memories. My mom started hovering, knocked on my door more, tried to chat, offered me juice, asked if I needed a ride, but it was too late. It was never about the juice. It was about power. And when control slips away, people who feed off it panic. But I wasn't there out of need anymore, just out of timing. And that time was running out. The last week of the month, I looked at her and said, "We need to talk." Her eyes widened, but there was no fear in me anymore, just clarity. I'm moving out Saturday. I found my own place. I'm going to live my life. She laughed, mocked me, said I wouldn't last a week alone. But what she didn't know is that I'd already been alone for a long time. Now, it was just going to be official. That Saturday morning, I woke up before my alarm. Not that I'd really slept. The boxes were lined up beside my bed like little soldiers guarding my decision. Soft sunlight spilled through the window. I grabbed the notebook where it all began and wrote my final goal. Today I leave. Just 4 words, but they weighed a ton. Every letter was a step out of the cage. And I was ready to fly. My mom didn't say a word all morning. She watched me from the corner of her eye, like someone watching a wild animal slip off its leash. When the moving van pulled up, she stood at my bedroom door. "So that's it," she said. I nodded. "You'll regret this." She tried to sound firm, but her voice cracked. For the first time, she had no way to stop me. And she knew it. I loaded the last box into the van and looked back at the house. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just felt everything all at once. Fear, relief, pain, freedom. It made me dizzy, but it didn't stop me. I got in the van and said, "Let's go." The driver grinned. "Independence hits hard, huh?" I laughed back, not sure if I wanted to laugh or sob. But yeah, I was leaving. For the first time for me. The new apartment was tiny but full of light. The smell of fresh paint, the empty sink, the quiet. A quiet that didn't threaten, it welcomed. I opened the window, let the breeze in, and sat on the floor between boxes. I felt both empty and full, like the world had ended and restarted all in the same morning. But this was my world now, with my rules, my peace. The first few days were tough. Tight budget, barely any food in the fridge. That sharp sting of loneliness. But every struggle came with a different taste. The taste of choice, of autonomy, of knowing that if I messed up, at least the mistake was mine. And that, after years of control, is a kind of freedom only people who've lived in captivity can understand. And I understood it deeply. My mom sent short texts. "Are you eating okay? Don't forget to pay the electric bill. There's still a place for you here." But I read them like old flyers left on a doorstep. It wasn't longing. It was another attempt to pull me back in. But the rope had already snapped, and I wasn't tying it back. Because going back wasn't returning home, it was returning to a prison. And I wasn't made for guilt-bound bars. I started learning how to take care of myself, how to do laundry, assemble furniture, cook more than just instant noodles. Every tiny one felt like an invisible medal. One night, I made rice, and it didn't stick. And I cried, because in that one fluffy grain was a victory. The victory of a woman making it on her own, of someone starting from nothing and still moving forward, of falling flat and still choosing to rise. I started sharing little pieces of my journey online. A short post here, a photo there. And to my surprise, other women started writing back. This sounds like me. My mom did that too. Thank you for saying what I never could. Their words gave me chills. Because I realized my old silence was an echo shared by many. And now my voice could be a light. One night, she sent one final message. Just one line. Are you happy? I stared at the screen for a long time. Then replied with all honesty. I'm learning to be. Because that's what it was. Not an ending, but a beginning. And even with fear, even with scars, I kept going. Because the door was cracked open. And on the other side, there wasn't a cage anymore. There was possibility. 6 months after I moved out, I sat in a small meeting room. White walls, simple chairs, but inside that space was my next chapter. The co-working manager slid a paper across the table and said, "Just sign here." So I did. Full name, steady handwriting. Lorena Oliveira, founder of my own financial consulting firm for women. The pen shook in my hand, but my heart, rock solid. The idea was born between overdue bills and sleepless nights. I realized my story wasn't just mine, and if I had to learn everything from scratch, there were others trying too. I started with simple videos. Then came one-on-one sessions, online classes, women who messaged me in tears saying, "I don't even know where to begin." And I'd say, start with whatever you've got, even if it's just $10 hidden in your purse. One day, I was invited to speak at a local tech school. I talked about financial freedom, about love disguised as control, about how money is often the first chain we're handed. After I finished, a girl came up and said, "My mom does the same thing with my internship pay." And I hugged her, because that scared look in her eyes, that was me just a few months ago. And now I was the woman I once needed so badly. I got a notification on my phone, my first official partnership contract. I sat down on my couch, grabbed the same old notebook where it all began, and wrote, "Today I make a living out of what once nearly broke me." Then I closed my eyes, not from pain, but because, finally, everything made sense. Like each humiliation had become a brick. And the bridge I built it myself. My mom called on my birthday. Her voice was softer. "I saw your video, you speak so well." I took a deep breath. Said, "Thanks." It wasn't reconciliation, it was recognition. Maybe she'll never say sorry. Maybe she'll never truly understand what she did. But that's okay. Because now, this isn't about her. It's about me. And I don't carry that weight in my chest anymore. Just lightness. Just what matters. I painted one wall of my apartment with a quote I found in a book. "Whoever controls your money controls your life." Every morning, I look at it when I wake up. And I remember where I came from, what I've overcome, and everything I'm still building. Because now, no one gets to set the limit on my income or my dreams. I get messages from clients saying they left abusive relationships after learning how to save on their own. Each one is a victory. Every story is proof that pain can become a tool. And freedom, it doesn't start with a front door key. It starts the moment you believe you deserve more. That night, I went to the grocery store alone, bought wine, pasta, sauce, and took the bus home. I cooked for myself, played soft music, turned on the warm light, and sat down to eat. And there, between sips and thoughts, I smiled. Because for the first time, no one gave me permission to exist. I gave it to myself. Before going to bed, I opened the notebook one last time and wrote, "She used to give me an allowance. Today, I teach other women to never accept that as love, to turn control into courage." Then I closed it, not with pain, with pride, because now my life has my name on the contract. She controlled every cent I earned. But today, I don't just survive, I lead. If this story hit deep, you'll want to see our last one too. A woman erased from the will after saving the family business, and how she built her own legacy from scratch. Click here to watch, and don't forget to subscribe. There's still so much real history to tell.